Hi, welcome to Portage County Matters. My name is Patty Dreier. I'm your county executive here in Portage County. It's my honor today to have put together what I think is really going to be a good show. Lots of information that's really valuable to folks in the community, I think. And then also my guest today is Ross Dick, our Director of Justice Programs in Portage County. Someone I'm sure that you're going to love to meet and who has a really interesting job. So anyway, I look forward to Ross joining us, but I've got some news highlights first. Strategic planning, the same topic that we emphasized a lot last month. We're continuing to make progress, and on the day before the taping of this show, which was February 27th, we had our department heads come together for another monthly staff meeting, and at that meeting our consultant, Walter Jankowski, brought to us the development of the preliminary draft plan from our January 18th retreat with county board supervisors and directors. It was exciting to see how it's starting to come together, and we also recognize that there's a lot more work to be done. We're going to continue that work together as a staff now with a number of weeks ahead of us before we bring it out in its next draft form to you in the community and the county board on March 19th. As part of an effort to build stakeholdership in the plan, as part of an effort to invite citizen input very early on, I'll be taking this draft plan around the county at 6 listening sessions that I have lined up over the next 11 weeks. Let's talk about those listening sessions a little bit. We'll run these listening sessions in a number of different places. Usually we go to each corner of the county, each quadrant of the county every quarter, and then we've posted a couple of listening sessions in the center of the county as well. During this time, any of the listening sessions, I'm going to read the dates and times in a minute. During any of these listening sessions, anyone can attend. So you don't have to be a resident of that municipality that's hosting the listening session at that time, but you can come to any one that fits in your schedule, or all of them if you wish. And I'm going to look forward to discussion on topics of strategic planning, but also the topic of ambulance services, especially in our rural areas of the county. Economic development is the other topic I want to have some conversation around. Now, the dates and times of the listening sessions, I'll just read them off quickly, and those of you watching this on YouTube can zoom back and forth over these dates and times and find one that fits in your calendar. And for those of you who are wanting additional information about the locations and so on and so forth, you're always welcome to give our office a call at 715-346-1997. Or also look at the county's website. We've got it posted on, the whole list of them posted on the homepage. Or I usually post on my Facebook page the specific sessions I'll be headed to in that next week. So anyway, hopefully I'll get to see you at least one of them. So listening sessions, Tuesday, March 5th, the town of Albin, from 6 to 7 p.m. The next session will be March 11th in the village of Junction City, 5:30 to 6:30. And I should say again, town of Albin, then that's at the town hall or the Central Wisconsin Electric Co-op. And for the village of Junction City on March 11th, that's of course at the village hall. On Thursday, April 4th, at the Portage County Annex building, 6 to 7 p.m. on the first floor, you'll find the conference rooms right there, conference rooms 1 and 2. On Wednesday, April 10th, in the village of Plover, 6 to 7 p.m. at the municipal building. Thursday, May 9th, at the town of Pine Grove from 6 to 7 p.m. in the town hall. On Monday, May 13th, in the town and village of Almond from 6 to 7 p.m. at the village of Almond municipal building. So thanks to all of those municipalities for hosting me and coming to those. And again, I look forward to discussions around any topic you're interested in bringing up or asking about, in addition to strategic planning, ambulance, and economic development. There are other opportunities for citizen engagement in shaping our community, and one of them I wanted to make you aware of is a citizen appointment opportunity. I'm looking for someone to appoint to recommend an appointment for the South Central Library System Board. And this is a position that comes with per diems and mileage provided. It's a position that will especially involve folks who want to help us make decisions about our library system. And so we're looking for people especially with experience or expertise related to library matters. Monthly meetings are held in Madison, and you can attend by telephone or video. But hopefully you'll be able to make at least a couple of those meetings in Madison. So if you'd like more information, you can contact my office. I've already provided the number earlier in the show, or again, you can find us on the county website. Economic development. I wanted to talk some more about this particular topic. I recently sent out a letter to municipal leaders of our towns and villages. It has to do with the March Towns Association meeting. It meets every other month in Portage County, and it's an evening potluck and meeting. It's always a wonderful gathering of folks that come from around our towns and villages to talk about common topics of interest and concern to the smaller and rural municipalities. And I'd like to read for you a very brief letter that I put together and sent out to local municipal officials so that they could provide some input on economic development. And here is that letter. It's an opportunity for you then to weigh in with your local municipal officials on economic development, especially in the rural neighborhoods of Portage County. So here's the letter sent out yesterday, February 27th. Portage County is developing a strategic plan to guide our county forward, and economic development has been identified as a priority. And as it also happens, our Planning and Zoning Department is beginning the process of working with many of you to revise our comprehensive plans. And a part of that planning process is an economic development visioning process for rural areas and urban areas of the county. With both of these initiatives in mind, we'd like you to help us take up a hearty conversation, a hearty discussion about economic development at the March 25th Towns Association meeting. And I want you to get a head start on generating thoughts and gathering input from your municipality. Below are the questions that we plan to use in starting the conversation, and we hope that you will feel free to offer other questions or ideas. So the questions are, from the vantage point of your municipality, what does economic development mean to you, and what comes to mind for your town or village? What are the opportunities for economic development in your locality within the context of Portage County and or our central Wisconsin community? And what are the barriers to economic development in your locality? So anyway, the Towns Association meeting is for towns officials. It's on March 25th. It's going to be held at the Sheriff's Office training room in our Law Enforcement Center. And I hope sincerely that if you've got thoughts about economic development, what it means to you, what do you need, what are the opportunities, what are the barriers, that you will connect with your municipal leaders so that then they can bring that input to that discussion on March 25th. Thank you for that. Now, my last bit of news before I get to our guest today is about joint dispatch. We are continuing to work through the questions and possibilities related to having the city of Stevens Point join the Portage County dispatch to basically merge their dispatch in the city with the county's dispatch in the Sheriff's Office, which is already dispatching for 32 emergency response organizations in our area. A joint dispatch will have operational benefits for both the county and the city, including responder safety, better and faster responsiveness for our citizens, closer coordination of information and intelligence, multiple layers of professional supervision for dispatch that can help us through that 24/7, 365 service. So with that in mind, I gave the city a proposal earlier this year, and a deadline for the decision is now extended to March 28th. The reason for the deadline is that our county is delaying on a very large capital project that relates to the next generation 911 system. It's going to replace our aging 911 system in the middle of 2013. And in order to prevent the city from spending money on a project that they may no longer need to spend money on by joining us, then, you know, we thought giving them that deadline and that grace period was really important. So if the city stays with a separate dispatch, they're going to have additional next generation 911 costs that relate to switches and cables and connections and software and programming. And if they join us, they won't have those expenses because it'll be that one-time set of expenses with us in the county. And so anyway, that's what this is all about, and I'm very hopeful, very, very hopeful that we will have a sense of the county's intention in knowing whether or not they're going to join the county dispatch. And I sincerely hope so. I think it's the best thing for all of us in Portage County, and I appreciate all the diligence that's going into their decision-making process, because it's just really important for all of us to get to the best result. So anyway, that's my news here today. I know I've stumbled over a couple of words on this day that feels a little bit like a Monday, but that's okay. I'm looking forward to now transitioning to my guest, Ross Dick, our Director of Justice Programs in Portage County. Welcome, Ross.
Hi, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you for staying with me while I reported on that news. Now, you have been in your position for maybe a little over a year. It is a little over a year. And can you just tell us a little bit about how it's been going, what you get to do on a daily basis as our Justice Administrator, Justice Programs Administrator?
As Justice Programs Director, and that's a position that you might find in, I'd say, 20% or less of the counties in Wisconsin. What we're tasked with doing is looking at alternative programs and alternative means of sentencing for offenders, and trying to conserve jail beds so that those are occupied by only the people who genuinely need to be in them. In my position, one of the primary things I do is oversee the Day Report Center, where offenders have to report sometimes daily, but a couple days a week for alcohol and drug testing. The Day Report Center also operates a pretrial program and a post-sentence program. And those programs are intended, with the pretrial, the program is intended to keep offenders who are out on bond honest with their conditions of bond. Some of those people then transition to the post-sentence program, which provides more substance abuse treatment and counseling and reporting. Individuals who get involved in that post-sentence program, the benefit to them, besides a healthier or substance abuse-free lifestyle, would be their jail sentence becomes abbreviated. That's the incentive for them to become involved in programming like that. So I oversee Day Report. I also work with Judge Pflugar in addressing justice-related matters through the Justice Coalition. That is a group of department leaders, the judges, district attorneys, law enforcement officials in the county, and we take up justice-related matters in a collaborative manner. That Justice Coalition is now more than a decade old, and I'd note that it's just within the last year that the state created a statewide collaborating council that does much the same as our Justice Coalition.
Ross, I know that there's a whole bunch of terms that we use when we're talking about justice programs that aren't the most common terms that folks, lay people, such as myself, might understand. One of the things I learned along the way was that our justice programs are getting more and more sophisticated, more and more based on science, and what we're really trying to do is to reduce that sense of the revolving door at the county jail so that we can save people money out of our corrections budgets at the same time as we can keep our public safe from folks that, you know, need to get on a better track in their life and become more productive citizens.
So what is changing on a statewide level, and this is being driven by the Department of Corrections, is they are trying to inject more science into dealing with offenders. The state has, within the last year or so, introduced the COMPASS system that has been integrated into all the correctional institutions and in all the community corrections offices, I should say probation and parole offices. That system allows the Department of Corrections to do more accurate assessments of offenders, to determine just what their specific risks are to society, what personal needs they have, what skill deficits they may have that need to be addressed so they can become more productive members of society. It also looks at what they refer to as responsivity, meaning how ready is somebody to change and how capable are they of changing given some of the deficits that they may have. So they are looking at trying to individualize programs and treatment. And with this system, which allows you to do these assessments, it also enables you to archive all the various things you are doing with an offender. Ultimately, when they amass all this data, their intention is to look primarily at recidivism and to look at the programming that offenders have gone through. And the hope is that over time, when you see recidivism declining, or if you see recidivism declining, you want to look at the offenders who are doing better and try to determine exactly what types of programs or services they received that contributed toward their not reoffending.
So let's even back it up a little bit. So let's say someone gets in trouble with the law, and when they come in and folks are in your shoes, right? Let's talk through what kind of steps do we go through to try to get an idea of where their criminogenic needs are stemming from. Can you just walk us through? Do we do the assessment where, and how does that work?
Once an individual would be convicted and would go on Department of Corrections supervision, and sometimes that involves just community supervision, and other times people have been in jail or been in the prison system and they come out and they're on supervision. What we're trying to do is establish, first of all, how serious an offender they are, and people are categorized as low, medium, or high risk for reoffending. So when we say a high risk offender, that doesn't necessarily imply that the person has committed an extremely serious crime. It indicates that they are very likely to reoffend. The new strategy being employed by the Department of Corrections tends to exclude the low-risk offenders, because what they have found is that by drawing low-risk offenders into the system, this can actually be harmful or can increase the chances of their reoffending due to their exposure to medium and high-risk offenders. So the current programming is going to be geared based on COMPASS assessments. The current programming would be geared toward addressing the needs and the risks of medium and high-risk offenders.
Just stop just for a half a moment there. So on low-risk offenders, what we're talking about are people that have the likelihood in their life that they will right themselves. They've gotten in trouble, maybe it was a shoplifting offense, and they realized that once they got in trouble that it was wrong and they're not going to do it anymore, and so they're not going to recidivate, so they're at low risk of returning to jail.
That's correct, and I guess maybe a more, using some of the current jargon, part of what we are looking at is whether they have pro-social elements in their lives. Everyone is familiar.
People in our community that we hang out with, our families, our solid friends that aren't in trouble with the law, those are pro-social.
Correct. People are more familiar with the term anti-social, which implies criminal type of behavior. Pro-social elements might be, having a family, owning a home, or having a steady job, living in a neighborhood, having an investment in the community. And certainly not all offenders are created equal, and people that commit offenses seldom or have not previously been in trouble with the law, as low-risk offenders, we are trying to weed them out and, in effect, let the pro-social elements in their lives remain intact. By pulling them into the system too much, we disrupt those pro-social elements, and we make it more likely that they are going to reoffend rather than less likely.
Okay, so now let's go back to medium and high risk. What the Department of Corrections is doing in our state of Wisconsin is we're giving more attention to medium and high risk folks. Those are those that have fewer good, solid, pro-social connections in the community and a higher risk of coming back again and again and again and costing all of us more, in addition to just causing more general trouble in our communities.
Yes, the medium and high risk obviously have more needs that need to be addressed, and through the programming and the assessments, we're going to try to channel them into programs in this area, programs that are tapered toward the needs of offenders in this area. Locally, the assessments indicate that offenders around here tend to have deficits in terms of basic life skills, and that might be child rearing or cooking, money management, things like that. Substance abuse is a big issue, and of course that's statewide. Mental health issues, and also job seeking and job retention. So those are all areas that we are trying to address through various types of programs. We're going to be working with Justice Works as a mentoring component. The mentors at Justice Works, who tend to employ a more non-directive approach, are going to try to keep people focused on their particular needs and what they specifically need to do to try to stay out of trouble with the law. So in other words, rather than giving people an entire laundry list of all the things they need to do in their lives, what we're trying to do is get it down to a few basics, 3 or 4 central goals that will, if addressed, will tend to lift them up from their current state of functioning and better integrate them into the community.
All right, just on that for a moment. Many folks have heard in the news that we have been approached by the Wisconsin Department of Corrections to roll out, to design and then roll out a pilot project that relates to an attempt to reduce recidivism through an evidence-based program, and we call this program the Community Cognitive Services Program. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, in our last 7 minutes or so of the show. And basically this program is one that the state came to us for. I just want to make sure everybody kind of gets the background. This is a program that the state approached us in Portage County to roll out because we've got this history, this decade of Justice Coalition work and lots of other stakeholders of our justice system that are working collaboratively to try to address these kinds of issues. And we do a lot of that work. You're sort of the staff hub for all of that as our Justice Programs Administrator. But the bottom line is it's been over a year of planning, because it's a big deal to roll out a new program and hopefully have a model for the state of Wisconsin. And I'd like to have us get to that in the show now. Talk a little bit about that, because I think we've given folks a little bit of a background. We're assessing risks. We're trying to tie different kinds of requirements to their sentencing strategies so that people are held accountable for their actions. And then we're trying to use science to reduce recidivism, to target those areas that are proven to work, those best practice areas that are proven to work. And with that said, I'll turn it over to you on the Cognitive Services Program.
Okay, all the things you mentioned are elements of the state proposal for programming. As you said, about a year ago, they approached Portage County. The reason they came to Portage County is we have a good reputation with regard to progressive programming. The Portage House, halfway house, is nearly 40 years old. We introduced programming into the jail. We assigned a county social worker to the jail. We have utilized electronic monitoring, a day report center. So there are a number of things we were doing over the years that signaled the state that we are looking at alternatives and better ways to manage our offender population.
So they came to us when they didn't find some success on grant rounds that were done around the state, and now they came to us and said, we'd like to set up an intergovernmental agreement through our Portage House.
Yes.
To be able to run a new program design that you're the key staff member leading in our community. Talk a little about the program, how many people are going to come into it, the fact that it's a 5-year stretch of time and we're still in the works here.
The state has talked about funding this programming, as you said, for about 5 years, and to the tune of $250,000 or maybe as high as $350,000 a year. We're looking at Portage House staff doing case management and supervision. As I had mentioned before, Justice Works, we would be looking to them for a mentoring component. We'd introduce programs regarding anger management, would have access to mental health clinicians as necessary. We would be able to impart life skills, possibly through home and financial managers or other services.
And AODA stuff, alcohol and other drug
yes, substance abuse programming.
To prevent that?
So we're trying to hit all of these key areas. And then as our earlier discussion of the science behind this, what's particularly important is tracking the types of services and level of service provision, what they refer to now as dosage, with each offender, so that in subsequent years, they, when they recognize that individuals, when they see that certain individuals are not getting in trouble, they can look back at their history and their programming history and try to determine from that what things we are doing that give us the biggest bang for the buck, I guess you could say.
You know, one of the keys that you mentioned, Ross, was that we have the statewide database, that database called Compass, where we're entering in what the criminogenic needs are of people in a state system. So wherever these offenders go, whether they continue to live in Portage County or they travel around, the fact is folks in other places will have also been able to see whether or not, you know, what their data look like in the system, which programs they've had, and if they recidivated, if they got in trouble someplace else. We'd be able to still track, because folks are mobile, right? And we're going to have to make sure that we can measure success far beyond the Portage County line.
Correct. Historically, this has been one of the problems with programming or tracking, is that they've referred to individuals who would be exposed to some kind of program in the institution. They get out of the institution and are living in the community, and an agent trying to do everything that he or she can for an offender might recommend them for a similar program, not being fully aware that they'd been exposed to something like that in the institution. Now, sometimes it's certainly appropriate for people to repeat programs, but the idea is to maintain and archive the type of programs somebody has gone through, so that there is less redundancy, and there's also a better ability to recognize what does work and what is not having a significant impact.
Well, I'm going to just say thank you to you right now, because I want to make sure we get this in the show. This is a really big deal, to pull this together, to work with state officials to do it, to have evaluation teams that stretch beyond our borders and work with state officials in evaluating this pilot project using these funds. We're going to hear more about it as the days go on. We'll have folks in this program where we're going to be working across all of our sectors here in Portage County to make it work, and you're the staff lead on it, and I so appreciate all of your effort around it. I know that we only have a couple other minutes before we need to close out the show, and there is no more important topic than to tend to this in making our world a better place here, starting right here in Portage County. So we're grateful for the opportunity on the pilot project, Ross.
Thank you. There's a lot of very good people working on this. I'm kind of the ringleader, but by no means do I carry the lion's share here. I can see this as a community effort, and people seem really interested in what's happening and seem enthusiastic about what kind of results we get.
So anyway, thanks again. So next month, we're going to have Sarah Wallace and Jeff Schuler from our Planning and Zoning Department talk about our bike ped planning project. So it's another opportunity for input. I hope to see you then. Thank you.